Okay, so it is 6:36. We're going to call the meeting to order. This is a regular meeting of the Montgomery Selectboard, which is technically a special meeting because we're off of our normal meeting cycle. We'll say it again at the end, but there is a meeting tomorrow night at 5 to finalize and approve the budget and the warning. The warning that got posted today for that meeting had the correct day, but not the correct date. It had today's date. It says Tuesday instead of Monday. We'll get a corrected warning up as soon as possible, but the formal budget approval and warning approval will be tomorrow night. Sorry for any confusion that caused, folks. First up is to review and make any changes to the agenda. Are there any additions or deletions to be made to the agenda?
I have none.
No.
Okay, hearing none, we're going to move on to the approval of the minutes of the January 8th meeting. Is there a motion to approve the minutes of the January 8th meeting as written?
I'll make the motion to approve the minutes of the January 8th meeting.
Great, so we have a motion to approve the minutes of the January 8th meeting as written from Leanne. Is there a second?
I'll second that.
We have a second from Mark. Is there any discussion? Hearing no discussion, we'll vote. All those in favor of approving the minutes as written, please signify by saying aye or raising your hand.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions?
Aye.
Suzanne's going to abstain. Welcome, Suzanne.
Thank you.
All right, motion carries. Moving forward to Public Works. First up is just general updates. Mark, anything that you want to give us updates on regarding Public Works?
No, I mean, it had been out quite a bit. I mean, it just snows quite enough that they've been out just about every morning to get the road sanded, so. The sand pile's going down, but it's real good.
Okay.
Yeah.
Great. If there's no other formal updates, the next item on the agenda is the adoption of the town highway mileage certificate. These are just duplicate copies, so if folks want to look on. This is the annual highway mileage certificate that we give the state of Vermont. This is what our funding from the state is based on, so we always want to make sure that we're accurate. Last time this was amended was when we added school drive.
Yeah.
So this is the mileage certificate for this latest round. Anything you want to add, Mark? Or
So the mileage hasn't changed, so we just move everything over. Then we just have to sign it every year so that the state, and send it back to the state so we get reimbursed for state aid.
Great.
For highways. So I'll make a motion to sign the certificate of highway mileage for February, for 2024.
Great. Is there a second?
Second.
Second from Suzanne. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, we'll vote. All those in favor of adopting the highway mileage certificate as presented, please signify by saying aye or raising your hand.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? Great. Motion carries and you've adopted the highway mileage certificate. There is an item on here for water department. This is,
You
what it is?
had a
We
deep
have
Hebrew.
Steve.
You had deep Hebrew.
Oh yeah, I'm sorry. I'm looking at a copy of the minutes that has a bunch of notes on it, and that was added after this. So yes, item C was the Deep Hebrew Road Maintenance Agreement. So if folks remember last time we talked about what we kind of worked out with Ethan, I got Ethan to put that into the format of a road maintenance agreement so that we have it in writing that we can sign off on. Again, this is looking at basically once the roads are in operable condition, temporary panels will be put back on the bridge. Once those panels are reinstalled, he's going to go in and gate at the end of the Class 4 road, which is where we determined the town public highway ends. With those panels and the gate installed, they're going to keep working on stuff they're doing in there through the summer. Depending on some factors like weather, they may try to conduct a timber sale in late summer, they might not. But if they do the timber sale, what they're going to do is remove the temporary panels, and when the work is complete, put back permanent panels that are approved by the town road commissioner. The idea there being is that when you're doing operations like a timber sale on a bridge like that, the temporary panels tend to get the crap kicked out of them.
Yeah,
And so when the final panels get on, we want to make sure those are the ones that aren't damaged through any course of the work.
okay.
So this is for Mark. I think Mark technically needs to sign off on it first, and then the board would approve it. But we can handle all of that in one swoop if we want to.
Yeah, so, I mean, that's what we agreed upon.
Yep.
Yeah, okay.
Hey Will, could you do me a favor and just click the "I'm okay with being recorded" button on the top of that? Yep. Awesome. Thank you.
Okay, so,
You're good?
yeah.
Okay. Do you want to move it?
And then, okay, upon final inspection. Yeah, so I move we approve the class 4 road trail and unclassified trail agreement between, what's his name?
Ethan Dreisiger.
Ethan Restiger, for the Deep Eagle Road for this summer.
Great. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Great.
Then I'll just have to sign off. But
Once he's completed.
Once he's
Yep.
completed.
Awesome. Motion's been made and seconded. Is there any further discussion? Hearing not, we can vote. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye or raising your hand.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? Great, motion carries. So the next item up on the agenda is the water department budget. If it's okay with everybody, we'll just table this until tomorrow evening when we adopt the municipal budget.
Yeah,
Um,
go with that.
Mostly because I still don't know how to print stuff off of that printer ever since they upgraded it, and so I wasn't able to get you guys all copies to look at.
Yeah,
There's no surprises with the budget, we're in great shape,
yeah,
but I want you all to have a copy before we approve it, because
yeah.
that would be good. Great, so we will table that until tomorrow. Again, for those that joined a little bit later, just to clarify, there was a warning that was posted today regarding a special meeting of the board. The date on the meeting was today's date. The day of the week was Tuesday. An amended warning is going to go up as soon as possible, but that's going to be a special meeting tomorrow afternoon to approve the municipal budget. So at that point, we'll approve the FY25 water budget as well.
At 5 o'clock tomorrow.
At 5 o'clock tomorrow,
Mhm.
yep. And that is a meeting that folks are welcome to join via Zoom, or they can come here to the town office if they want to. Awesome, so that brings us through water department, so let's hop to visitors. We're gonna start with those in the room. You guys are here for the
town hall,
Grange
the
Hall?
charter.
okay. Is it okay if we pause on that until we get it to the, well actually, are folks okay if we move to the adoption of the town hall charter now? It's item G under old business.
Yeah.
No objections?
No,
Okay,
We didn't know if you had, edits, I just read it over and.
F. Sorry, I should stop playing with the warning after I post it.
I don't know, I just,
What's G?
I did it,
Ratification, reverse fund expenditure for boiler installation.
but if there's anything that can get kicked off or whatever you edit.
Yeah, okay, so, do you wanna quickly just present and then we can walk through?
Basically, it's the standard charter from what I, researched, purpose, responsibilities, and the organization. The purpose would be that sort of mission statement pared down, but basically would be the management, caretakers, with no substantial actions being taken without the town of Montgomery without the town's approval. The main effort is to create welcoming spaces open and accessible to all people year round. It's very important to us that whoever is doing this pursues funding opportunities to offset costs. So I thought that was important to be part of the main purpose, is to make sure that funding, not just a responsibility, but that is a core piece
Yeah.
of coming on board is make,
Yeah.
we want people on the board that are gonna contribute to that as well, and not just,
So you're gonna present us, like a new schedule for, like, renting the building and all that? and-
we're working on, under responsibilities, updating the building use policy, we'll be handling
Okay.
the scheduling for the use of the building as per Liz and Jen, we're very we don't, this-
Yeah. Yeah.
There,
Yeah.
and just dealing with the contracts between the people renting it and, so we'll be the main communication.
I think we're using the calendar the town already has set up. right?
Yeah.
We're using that, but we're
Just
also,
kinda-
we're talking about
Yeah.
a dedicated email. We're working on a lot of systems
Mhm.
pieces that'll make it easier to access us and, instead of calling the town clerk, you'd call us. There'll be an email specifically for scheduling.
Okay.
Joanne Dennis is working on that, I think. We have specific people working on specific pieces. Management and maintenance, that's gonna be Abe and Brad.
Myself.
Yeah.
Yeah, mostly. We've already gotten a couple major things looked at, and
Mhm.
which is awesome. Just the standard maintaining our monthly meetings and taking minutes and following the rules, Robert's Rules of Orders to all the state statutes governing, posting minutes and all that.
So then there'll be somebody like, after an event happens, goes in and checks the building after.
Oh god, yeah, we've got Tara's on the committee, and she's already that point person for the town.
Oh,
So,
okay.
yeah, so we've got, we'll be responsible for all the maintenance and cleaning and,
Oh, okay. Yeah, 'cause it's.
and then just again, reiterating, seeking funding opportunities, grants,
Yeah. Yeah.
any other items, which is always added. Organization, I'm pretty sure we said we did 4 3-year terms and 3 2-year terms.
Mhm.
Chairman, vice chairman, secretary. The treasurer is always gonna be the town's treasurer,
Yeah.
even though it's gonna have a reserve fund. We're not gonna
Mhm.
handle all the money we take in, it's gonna be handed to Aaron at
Yeah.
this point.
Yeah.
All the reserve fund is keeping, are separate
In-
from the
Yeah,
budget money, but it's still handled by the town.
yeah.
It's just an easier way to keep the numbers.
Yeah.
And then just sub-chairmans that will be elected, if we want somebody to, as needed.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
Specific events, like, we're gonna put Tiffany in charge of gardening, we're gonna put whatever, as we move along.
Yeah.
And then the only thing in here that I put was that committee members should be residents of the town. I don't know if that is okay,
Doesn't have to be.
No.
So if it's a committee or board that is determined by statute, like statute there's a different thing about like statutory committees
right.
versus appointed committees, like we have like the rec department, for example.
Yeah, well, I just, maybe,
Probably can take that
I was
out.
gonna strike that.
Sure.
Yeah.
I just
So-
felt like it would maybe hamper us, and
Yeah.
it's not the status quo of the rest of the committees in town.
Yeah, that's fine. Great.
So just 7 members, is that what you
Yeah.
heard?
Yep.
Yep. I'm okay with that.
Yeah,
Okay.
that's about it.
So I had a couple minor comments or suggested edits maybe.
Please.
So on A, I would just capitalize building use policy, because if it's gonna be a formal policy, we'll capitalize the letters. Also in A, so I understand what you're saying about collecting fees for the use of the building,
Right.
but from a financial controls standpoint in the town, it'd be better if fees were collected by actually the office. So for example, like if, say Patty's Pottery Club wanted to rent the Grange Hall, and it was a charge of $150, rather than give you guys the money,
Right.
you'd handle the scheduling, but they would actually pay the town clerk.
And they're still okay with that?
Yeah. And
Okay,
yeah.
cause that was part of the conversation with Liz and whether they actually wanted to still take the money. cause it
Did
seemed
Liz
like
suggest that they didn't wanna take the money?
they didn't seem to wanna be bothered by a constant flow of people, and it was like, oh, well, we can, I mean, what's the difference between somebody coming in here or me handing them?
It's more a case of, it has more to do with like,
Yeah.
cash receipts.
Okay.
I'm more concerned about cash because like when somebody
Right.
brings in cash into the office, there's a process by which like 2 people will account for it, it'll be recorded, and then it goes into the safe kind of a thing. So we'd wanna avoid a situation whereby, say,
I'm walking around with
we'll say a renter like gave it to Brad and then
Right,
something happened to it or it went missing or
Right.
like, you know, not to say like someone would take it, but like, you know, it just tracks it cleaner. But what I would say is that if you guys wanted to work at proposing a fee schedule, I think that would be completely within the realm of your committee's work.
yeah, that's part of that, creating and updating the building use policy. I
Okay.
think the fees fall under there, definitely updating those.
Okay, great.
So we'll strike collecting fees for the use of the building,
Yeah,
and maybe just put maintaining all contracts. I want, maybe maintaining isn't the right word, but if somebody wants to rent the hall for a wedding,
Scheduling all contracts.
it would be up to one of us to go meet those people at the hall, say, this is what we have to offer, here's the tables, here's the chairs, you know.
yeah. Maybe acting as liaison for all contracts.
Yeah.
Because the
Okay.
contracts
I
would
was
have to
thinking
still be,
maintaining, they're gonna be in the office once they're signed.
yeah.
Our plan is to keep a file here that would have, contain all those
Yeah.
after they're signed.
Yep.
Mhm.
So,
So you could just say like acting as liaison on all contracts and maintaining records associated with the,
acting as.
Yeah.
liaison. Okay. And then, what else you got, Charlie?
and then the last thing would just be from, I think if you're looking at like a formal structure of boards and stuff on E, I get what you're saying by sub-chairman, but I think the more formal structure would be, either committees or committee chairs.
Oh, got it.
You know,
So committee chairs.
or committees, either way. I think sub-chairman, I think that language could be a little confusing, and this is like totally splitting hairs, but I think.
That's
with,
fine, that's
yeah.
exactly why,
Yep.
that's what we're here to do, so that's great.
Cool. Did you have
Just under responsibilities B, is it reasonable to have management of all maintenance of the hall? I imagine some maintenance will still fall on our build, or is it 100%?
I feel like the final sentence there, Suzanne, is that clear? Select board will have final authority on expenditures that exceed, yeah, that's kinda,
I mean, right now, we kind of oversee it.
I just meant as
We
far
work
as
for
like,
the-
yeah.
The town, you know,
I mean, certainly anything, I think anything we do that's substantial, even like replacing the ceiling tiles,
it's gonna have to come.
that's a
Yeah.
$7,000, right? Is that?
Everything, like, we need to run everything through you guys, just as well as I think if anyone else wanted to do any maintenance, they should run it through us, because it might contradict something we're
Yeah.
already doing.
Yeah,
I-
So to have it go both ways, I feel like we should be a part of all of it.
No, I think, yeah, I think,
Yeah.
I think
Yeah.
having you manage,
I mean, we'd come to you and say, we need to replace the windows.
yeah,
We wouldn't expect you guys to go into the hall and look around and, like, I think we'd be the ones bringing you the list of
the
stuff.
proposal, yeah.
But I also think our plan was to raise money and sort of, you know, punch list.
Mhm.
Okay, this is priority one.
Yep.
And during our meetings, that's kind of what we're trying to come up with, is that list of
Yeah.
what's the most important stuff to do first.
But anyone could come to us with recommendations of stuff
Yeah.
if they're like,
Yeah.
you're overseeing this, or you need this or
We've
that.
had many
Yep.
requests to paint the ceiling. How does everybody feel about that? Change
like
the
the paint.
color
I
pink.
feel like Zach would roll over into
I
it.
know, I don't even wanna go there,
Yeah.
I'm like, oh, that's not
Yeah.
gonna be
Some
my-"
juju.
Yeah,
I know,
um,
we could maybe repaint it pink.
yeah, yeah,
Well, maybe.
yeah, yeah.
Another shade.
Okay.
Hey,
Well, once the more important stuff is done, we can talk about that.
Yeah.
Anybody else have any other?
Well, Suzanne, you, so,
No, I'm fine with it. I wasn't trying to suggest that, like, I just
no,
was,
I hear what
I didn't
you're
know
saying.
if we were maintaining any sort of authority on this end that,
Well, as far as what money, I mean,
Well,
yeah,
yeah,
certainly we're
totally.
not
Yeah.
gonna.
Okay,
yeah, whatever.
cool. Well, if you guys want to incorporate those and just bring back a clean copy, we'll get it adopted and off and running.
Mhm.
Cool, and we can, so our next meeting is the second Monday of February. So if we have this for you, your first meeting
Yeah.
in February, then
Yeah, perfect. Yep.
Yeah.
we can,
Yeah, the option would be to approve as amended, but there's been, I think, enough tweaks that it would make the motion just hard to
Yeah,
yeah,
read. So yeah, just bring back a clean copy and we'll go with it.
absolutely.
yeah,
All right, sweet.
Thank you,
Appreciate you guys.
yeah.
Thank you.
yeah.
So we're gonna keep on going with visitors. What's up, Craig? You got the floor.
Yeah, I was wondering about possibly subcontracting out or privatizing the road maintenance between Larry's, Deep Gibu, and Hill West, and part of West Hill, or all of West Hill and part of Hill West.
Wait, so you mean like like not just the class 4 sections, but like,
No, all the class 4 sections.
I got you. Okay.
From Larry's to the Deep Gibu, and then down West Hill, all the way to the town turnaround, and part of Hill West as far as there are residences. And I know as of last year, could be 2 years now, but there's been 2 more places added, one behind Larry's and one behind my place.
Mhm.
And a lot of people this last year have asked if I would plow it, and I am not going to do that because the road, it'll just destroy my equipment. But I won't have a problem if it is well enough. I mean, I'm basically saying I'll do it. I've got the equipment, I've got the materials. It's just gonna take time to shape it and make it good.
Okay.
Not looking to turn it into a class 3, just make it so you can drive Mustang up there without ripping out your muffler.
Yeah.
Um,
So just to be clear, when you say subcontract, do you mean like for compensation? Like,
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, because you ain't putting that money into it for free.
No, I understand. I understand. The reason I ask is just that right now Mark, do you want to talk? You're the road commissioner. Do you want to talk about class 4 roads?
Yeah, right now, I mean, we don't subcontract or do any maintenance, you know,
Yeah,
we do a
yeah.
little bit of maintenance, but that's on our own,
Yeah,
you know. And then if somebody wants to change a culvert, they come to us and
yeah,
we give them approval to, you know, change the culvert the way it's supposed, you know.
yeah,
But we don't, sometimes we'll give them a culvert and stuff, but,
yeah,
we don't do too much maintenance on the class 4s.
yeah.
I mean, so I don't know how we do that to subcontract somebody, you know, I don't see how we could pay somebody.
Yeah. So I think the main point is like we've got these class 4 road maintenance agreements
Yeah.
that we enter in with people to give them ability to do work,
Yeah,
but we don't, beyond maybe supplying a culvert here
Yeah.
or some gravel there,
Yeah.
we don't pay people to do it.
yeah,
So
Yeah.
I think the concern would be that if the town started to subcontract class 4 road maintenance
We'd have,
anywhere in town, we'd have to do it everywhere in town. And then that would open a pretty big can of worms. We have to change our class 4 road
Yeah.
policy, I guess.
yeah,
yeah.
Yeah.
I have a question.
Yeah.
Are there any roads comparable to Hill West Extension and Deep Gibu as far as the number of year-round residents living on them? Other 4th class roads in Montgomery you can think of?
no, I don't think so.
Not with the
I think that's the
number.
most,
Is there any
like, up there.
is there like a catalyst at some point that like if it's a you know, if it's a neighborhood pretty much of people living there year round, that maybe we should look into extending our road maintenance to a place like that. I mean, it's-
Again, we'd have to go back and look at, I think the question is, do we reopen the class 4 road maintenance policy? Because right now the policy, I don't have it in front of me, but it basically states that if there's not a year-round resident on the road at the adoption of the policy, the town's not gonna maintain the class 4 road, and so,
Then if,
I
you
mean,
know,
I know
enough
how it
people
is
get on the
now,
road
but-
and they wanna bring it up to a class 3 standard, then we'd have to take it over.
yeah.
Yeah.
But they'd have to bring it up to a class 3 standard before we would take it over. This has happened before. You
Yeah.
know, there's been a lot of people on the road. And, to get it to class 3 standard, you're talking a lot of money.
Yeah.
But what if all those people got together and signed a petition and said we wanted our road brought up to class 3?
I think we're still not liable for it. I mean,
So,
I'm just.
Yeah,
I'm
so I don't
curious
know.
as Suzanne is, cause it is a lot of people up there now.
there's probably a process by which
Oh.
statute addresses that. Yeah, Larry, go ahead.
Well, you think about where the McAllisters and Canes live, there's about 5 permanent residents there. And they're still having to maintain that road. And they're all full-time residents. I'm not sure that you're saying you won't treat them better, treat them, with a service?
Well, we do we supply gravel for that section of the road every year.
If I recall correctly, that's still listed as a unimproved road trail as well. And you're supplying gravel there?
We do other places, yeah. I mean, we bring them to like 2 or 3 loads of gravel, then they spread it out. And I
But,
think we,
but yeah, I don't think you understood me, Mark. If I recall correctly, that upper section of Hill West is on the map as a unimproved trail.
oh, it is, I thought it was still class 4.
No, you need to look at that again. It's very similar to what the section from the bridge to the end of the road on Ethan's section there. That's unimproved trailer road. And you may want to change your terminology on that too. You said class 4 highway in your agreement there. Charlie, and I think that would be an incorrect terminology to use.
Yeah, sorry. I guess
Yeah.
we do tend to use road and town highway interchangeably, but I guess you're right, Larry. There probably is a technical statutory difference there. Town highway basically just says it's a public road.
In addition, Mark, you put some gravel up here on the South Richford, not South Richford Road, the road out here that goes, what is that out here? Rushford Valley Road. You brought some gravel out there past the class 3 turnaround as well.
Yeah,
I'm just wondering why we're providing fill to some roads and not others.
well, every year we'll try to bring some up to your area, another year.
Okay.
Well, I think Mark's point is that when folks ask about something,
Yeah.
I think the track record has been if somebody's doing something and they're saying,
Yeah.
"Hey, I have the equipment. I want to do X, Y, Z. Could we get a load of gravel?" We try to accommodate them. So it is more of a as asked and project base as opposed to like every class 4 road is going to get 2 loads of gravel every year and a culvert every 6 years kind of a thing. Like it's not regular. So granted, it's not a uniform process, but the town does try to assist folks where we can, acknowledging that we don't maintain the class 4 roads. So we'll offer some material where we can.
Yeah.
Understood. I think I got some projects coming up.
All
Okay.
right.
That's fine.
So back to the discussion about the Gibu and the roads in question. So it sounds like, let me look into the question of a petition. That's a good one. I don't think
Yeah,
that
I think it's been tried.
Yeah, I don't think landowners can file a petition and force the town to do that, but let me make sure I understand the process there and the backstory. To Mark's point, another avenue here would be that the landowners on the class 4 road bring the road up to class 3 standards, and then the town adopts it. The other thing would be that the landowners on the road would contract somebody to maintain the road for them.
So I could potentially privately charge people to maintain the road.
Yeah, I think what would happen is that we would enter into a road maintenance agreement with whoever is going to do the maintenance. And if that
Yeah.
person has a financial arrangement with the landowners on the road, I think that would be, I'd have to double check to make sure it's legal, but I think that would be okay. I mean, in that, like right now, we've got things where somebody says, I'm gonna do some work over here, and some landowners kick them a few bucks. It's not formalized.
Yeah.
But I would see it kind of like folks up on the top of the ring road, right? Where they've come together and they pay someone to plow it collectively or something like that, almost like a homeowners, like an HOA or a homeowners
Well,
association.
just like Alpine Haven, you know.
Like Alpine
It's
Haven,
a
yeah.
homeowners association.
We as the town aren't entered into any sort of maintenance agreement with them, and I
No.
wonder.
No, those are
I-
private roads, so I'm just
Yeah.
equating it to like how you come together and pay for something like it. Because right now, like say they wanted a new culvert up on West Hill Extension, somebody with the equipment would come to us and say, hey, I want to do this, and spread some gravel, and then that would all get arranged, and that individual might go to somebody else up there and say, hey, I've done this work, could everybody throw me $100? And they might do it. We're not involved with any of that. We would have a class 4 road maintenance agreement with the person doing the work. So I guess the question would be like, if there's a formal financial agreement between the landowners on the road and the person doing the road work, does that kick it into some other category? I think that would be kind of what we have to chase down. So you bring up a lot of great questions. We can chase them down and try to get some answers around what's legal and what's not. But I do think just in general, I think the short answer to the town as an entity subcontracting somebody and paying them to do the class 4 road maintenance, I don't think that's gonna happen unless we totally redo our class 4 road policy, so.
I just see the area growing, and I don't have the money to buy the land to stop people from moving in. So.
Yeah, no, I hear you.
I mean, it's kind of one of those things. It's like maybe, well, years ago there weren't enough people, but there's more people coming, and there's nothing you can do about it. So why not try to, not necessarily invite them, but
Yeah. No,
make something of it for possibly myself and family. You know, I just see an opportunity.
Yeah, well, let us chase down these questions, and we can figure out at least what the guardrails are,
Yeah,
you know, legally.
where the ditches are at least, and
Well, I was saying guardrails more in terms of like what are the bounds of what we can do legally. And we can figure it out. But I think the kind of the thought behind the class 4 road policy, I wasn't here when we adopted it, but I always saw it as kind of, hey, if you want to go move up there and build something, you can do it, but understand that you're doing it in a place that we're not going to maintain. So folks need to kind of, if they're going to move up there, they need to kind of acknowledge that that's going to be something they bake into.
They have to work with that.
You know, it's kind of like when you move up here to a class 3 road and you might want to trade in your Prius and buy something with higher clearance, right? Like, there's decisions that you make about where you live, right? So, yeah.
No, it's just one of those things. Lived up there my whole life, and I see it changing rapidly, and it. I'm not a Rockefeller, so I can't stop it from happening.
Yeah, I got you.
So.
Well, let us at least kind of make sure we've got things straight about this idea behind the petition and what that could do. Whether there would be some legal barriers to doing some other arrangement like we discussed, and that way we can kind of at least figure out what we can do legally, and then we can circle back to it.
Yeah.
Okay. Cool.
Let me know whenever you think you got a few answers, ideas, and come to that meeting.
All right. Awesome. Thanks, Ray.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I'll get out of here.
Yeah. No
Have a
problem.
good evening, guys.
You too.
All right, so we're gonna go to the Zoom, and I'm just gonna go in the Hollywood squares as I see them. So, Larry, you're up.
My usual tax rate question every year. Have you reviewed requests from other departments and outside of people outside of the community, what they expect for money from the town that's coming up in your budget? Have you reviewed those and make sure that we're doing our best to keep the tax rate low?
Yes, so yes to all of that. So the budget committee reviewed all of the social agency requests that we received, and used the same kind of filter to say, has this organization worked in this community and provided a direct benefit to residents? That's the kind of the filter we use. Big picture, yes, the tax rate, we're trying to keep it as low as possible. As far as social agency requests, I don't have it pulled up right here, but I want to say the budget committee moved to fund maybe half of what we received in ask. So there was some saying no.
And what about our departments?
The department budgets all came in flat, meaning no increases in the department budgets. Except for one department, which isn't really a department, but it's the library. That's the only department, and that was a modest increase due to wages, and so that will be, I'm sure that will be articulated in their letter. But as far as departments go, commissions, departments, those are all level funded for next year.
Just to go back to make sure I heard you right, Charlie, did you say that the library increase was based on wages?
The increase to the library's budget based on the material we received was strictly based on an increase in wages. I don't have the figure here, but you know, in principle, an increase in wages, I mean, you look at cost of living adjustments, stuff like that. But I'm not going to speak for the library as to how much and why.
Okay, thank you very much.
All right, thanks. Let's keep going around the horn. Kip, go ahead.
Yeah, I'm just here for the project updates you'll be talking about in a little bit.
Okay, awesome. Thanks, Kip. Sue?
Nope, I have nothing.
Nothing? Okay. Merle?
Are you going to make sure you get a page in the town report this year showing all the wages of what everyone has paid? That was omitted last year. Every year for that I can go back 40 years, there's always been a page in the town report showing expenses of everybody in town that was paid anything is listed in on a page.
Yeah, I mean, we've got all the department budgets there, which have those figures based into them, but I don't recall the conversation last year. I want to say the conversation had to do with trying to balance transparency and public information with essentially folks' right to privacy. I don't recall more than that. Anybody else on the board remember that conversation?
I do not.
Well, what employees and what everybody receives, that's got to be public records.
I missed what you said there, Merle. What was that? I missed what you
Can
said.
I say something? All of the wages are listed on page 27 of last year's town report. It's the select board salary, town clerk and treasurer, delinquent tax collector, listers, zoning administrator, health officer, constable, public works department, Scott, Dave, Mark Gilmet, Mark Briette, William Baker Senior, Robert. They're all right there on page 27.
They were listed.
Yeah,
Are all the employees on there too?
yeah.
Yes, I just read, yeah, the town clerk, town treasurer, delinquent tax collector, the listers, the zoning administrator, the health officer, the constable, all of the public works department, all of them with their salaries, all of the select board. It's right there on page 27.
Well,
I hope,
Okay.
I hope my big.
Thanks, Sue. I mean,
right, maybe it was the year before.
okay, thanks, Sue. Yeah, I mean, we'll continue to do what we did last year. I know we talked about this in the past. I couldn't remember where it landed, so thank you for clarifying that, Sue.
Okay.
All right, thank you, Merle. All right, with that, we're gonna jump back to the agenda. This brings us to old business. First up on my agenda is the Longley Bridge Trout River project. Is that on your agenda too?
No, it's,
Yeah, it's on mine.
Okay.
yeah, I wish it weren't.
So there actually,
Can I say, can I just? say no? And it goes away.
so there actually is, there is nothing to discuss on this project tonight.
Stop.
So we will carry that forward. Yeah,
Till next meeting?
yeah.
I can't wait.
So we will carry that forward. The streetscape project update, the only update there is that the engineers are continuing to work towards the next iteration of the design. We had discussed at a previous meeting also trying to track down some funds to assist with going after additional grant funding through the Municipal Assistance Program, or MTAP, through the state. Unfortunately, I heard back from Catherine Dimitrick, and actually, I'm sorry, I should back up. We are looking for MTAP funds to help us go after more money to get grants for the streetscape project. And Catherine, sorry, I'm rereading her email now in real time as I'm talking, which is not a good idea. But I do believe that is still an option. And so we're still going to try to chase that down to go after additional funds to support that project as needed. So that's kind of still where that is. So we'll carry that one forward as well. Next up is the wastewater project update. So first up is just the P&S agreement. So that was executed as amended at the last meeting to reflect the receipt of all applicable permits that we can get. Just a reminder to some folks, there are some permits that we can't apply for until we actually own the land.
Oh, okay.
So for example, like the indirect discharge permit, like we can't apply for that until we own it. But anything that has to do with more kind of local zoning questions, those will all need to be baked before we sign it. So we're still trying to chase down some answers there, but it's in the P&S agreement. The only other update with the wastewater project, and I'd hope to have a clear answer on this today, but unfortunately I wasn't able to get the hydrogeologist we work with wasn't able to get back to us in time. It's looking very likely like we may have to indefinitely shelve the village system, which is a real shame. But we have not been able to secure an alternate site for the disposal field. Following kind of the loss of the one that we were looking at on North Hill, we went back to the drawing board. There was another potential one that we were looking at on West Hill. That has not panned out, and I'm going to take a lack of communication as I'm not interested in it, which is totally fine from the landowner. So I don't believe we have a site to make that system feasible. The hydrogeologist, we asked last week to do one more look to see if there was any other potential capacity in any of the sites that we looked at. And we're waiting to hear back from her, but we're getting to a point now where we're going to have to make a formal decision on that. And if we can't secure a disposal field for that project, then essentially it's going to get shelved indefinitely.
What about that old pit up by your house, Charlie?
What's that?
What about that old pit up by your house?
Yeah, if you talked to me 10 years ago. Yeah, I think the other person that lives in that house would have a firearm waiting for me at home if I tried to do anything like that. Yeah, so.
Sue Wilson's trying to get your attention.
Hi, Sue, yeah.
Charlie, how much land is needed?
It depends on the site. It depends on the site, but roughly 5 acres, I believe.
And we don't have that down at the, where the water department is.
You
So,
can't put it.
yeah, the water department wouldn't work, because it's within the exclusion area for the well, the source water protection zone, yeah. Yeah, unfortunately, these sites have to have very specific soils with a specific sized area with no limiting factors surrounding them. And those include like seeps, other wetlands, ephemeral streams, all these kinds of things.
In the lower fields or something.
I think Kip wants you.
Thanks, Sue. Yeah.
Yep.
Is there any chance that the state will decide to use eminent domain to acquire a site?
Yeah, so the feedback that I've gotten, no one's said firmly yes or no that they're going to use eminent domain, but the kickback that we got was basically that's a decision you guys need to make before we make it. So the board would have to affirmatively say we are going to condemn the property and take it for this project, and based on past conversations with this board, I don't think there's an appetite to take a property for this project.
No.
Unfortunately. Well, I shouldn't say unfortunately. That's just the way that it is, yeah.
Is there the opportunity to have some wider public discussion around that?
Regarding the use of eminent domain?
Yes, for the purpose of public health and environmental quality. It would seem that
I mean,
there
it
are
is,
some,
I'm
it
sorry.
would seem like there are some good justifications for it.
Yeah, I understand arguments on both sides of it, yeah. So, I mean, there'd be two, off the top of my head, I'd say the two forums for discussion on this could be town meeting. I mean, there's not an article about it at town meeting, but town meeting does provide the electorate in presence to discuss items. It'd be non-binding, but it does have a forum for discussion of items. We do plan to have a public meeting for the wastewater system. At this point, it's probably going to be sometime in late February. But before we actually hold that meeting, we really wanted to come up with a final answer from the hydrogeologist about the alternative sites, because we wanted to have as much information in hand when we went into it. So that would be another public forum for folks to make the voice heard and have the conversation. Yep. So pending the hydrogeologist coming back with something else we can look at, that's unfortunately the situation we're in with the village. Yeah. Right.
A big change like that, how would that change moving forward with the whole project? Like, will it change at all? Or
Yeah.
will it have to be readdressed now, funding wise and voting wise and everything?
Yeah, so it doesn't have to be readdressed voting wise, but funding wise, it would have to get readdressed because the whole funding stack was based on 2 projects, and we've intentionally tried to separate that out with the funders as best we can. But the base funding, which comes through USDA Rural Development, is tied together, and without getting too deep in the weeds, the way that funding is set up, we have to use loan dollars from them before we can access their grant funds. And the structure of it makes sense for a size of a project that we're doing. And the loan funds we would then take out and pay down using other funds. In this case, the scale of the project would be such that we wouldn't necessarily be able to use the loan dollars in a economically efficient way that makes sense to access the grant dollars without incurring way more debt than we wanted to. So what we need to do is make a final definitive kind of say as a town, if the village is not gonna move forward. And that's when we can go back to all those folks and say, it's no longer an if or maybe, because right now their answer to us is, well, if that could happen, we're just gonna keep moving forward with that, and we can always circle back and address it then, but until we can go back and say, that's not gonna happen, then that's the formal kind of split for them to then readdress the funding stack with us. So it does throw the funding into kind of a question, and we're working to address it now, but until we can give them a definitive answer on the village, they're not gonna give us a definitive answer on what they're gonna do.
But then the funding and the actual debt that the town will accrue and everything will be quite a bit different, or?
It'll be less, right?
Well, this is where it gets kind of weird because the overall cost of the project would be less, but in order to get the grant money, you've got to expend a loan amount that is based off of a much bigger project. So using the smaller project, we'd have to burn up way more money in loan, not using other grant dollars instead. And then we'd be stuck with a loan that we can't use the grant dollars to pay off. So we essentially need to get to a position where USDA will work with us to negate, reduce, or remove the conditions around the loan agreement.
Can they just proportionally scale it?
They'll do that. They've done it with the water.
Yeah.
I mean, like, there's options here we can pursue. It's gonna take time and some arm wringing and some hand holding and some, twisting of people. So it's not like it's impossible, but it just means more work with them. I mean, on the upside, like, all of the people we have talked to, they've said they wanna make this move forward. As crazy as this sounds, Montgomery's project is still like the best positioned village wastewater project in the state to actually succeed at this point. So they want it to move forward because they want to make sure the money they've put towards this gets spent on it.
Yeah.
But that's basically where we're at.
Just an honest opinion, when this first came down the pike, I mean, it's near and dear to my heart, because way back in the day, I was the shit lady. I had to go deal with the shit money. But I never thought the village needed a system, so, and I also questioned where it could be sited because the water source is there. And living down there, you've got St. Ange, Carpenter, Soul, and it sounds like you've exhausted those guys as possibilities, that own the majority. So I'm not surprised, but I also feel like it's a lot, people are going to be a lot more amenable. I mean, it was the center project in my head forever, so I'm super excited if the center can go through, but I never really saw the need for it in the village because of all the testing we did after the floods. The village systems were not failing, are they now?
Yeah, I mean, we just got a report back from the state on monitoring of water in, I'd have to pull it up to exactly tell you what they're monitoring and where. Some of it was done in just stormwater catchments, but two or three places in the village that they monitored shows active leachate from human wastewater.
So right on the Lake Black Falls stream or in that.
Right on Main Street in that area. I mean, I can make the report.
In the village.
In the village, yeah.
Yeah.
Oddly enough, they were doing the testing in the village, not the center. I don't know how they picked them, but the state basically did a test where they went around to like 10 different communities.
Yeah, I don't doubt. I mean, it's been
testing.
Years. So,
Yeah.
I mean, things change, though, for sure.
And so they sent us a copy of it, and then this report actually only came in like 2 weeks ago.
Yeah.
And I'm happy to email it to anybody that wants to see it, but it basically said that, in these locations we tested, there's evidence of, and I forget what the technical names are for it, but like poop.
E. coli.
Yeah.
Or whatever. And is there a way to do scaled down, like those shared systems? I mean, I'm thinking in terms of, redesigning it to be smaller and less intrusive. I mean, there's different models.
Yeah, I mean, this is like from balancing scale and
Sure.
cost, and this is the
Yeah. Mm. Well, this is the first time I've actually listened in on these stuff. Very interesting.
So again, waiting on final word from the hydrogeologist, but that's going to be something that very soon we're going to have to decide whether to keep trying and pushing or looking or whatever, or make the formal decision to indefinitely pause it so that we can get the funding stuff all squared away as far as the center goes. So that's
How soon
unfortunately,
is very soon?
probably our first meeting in February.
Oh, so it really can't even wait to have a discussion with community members about whether or not they want us to pursue eminent domain.
Well, I mean, like, the question, I'm sorry, so the eminent domain question could still happen. I think the decision is more a case of going back to the state and saying, we do not have a viable alternative that we have found,
Yeah,
and therefore without that, this will not move forward. What does this do to your funding scenario?
okay,
Yeah, I mean, if there was a scenario whereby something happened that then galvanized support and moved the board into exercising eminent domain, that could then change something.
yeah,
But it's really a case of trying to figure out the alternative site so that we have a definitive answer on that we can take it to the state and then take to the town.
has the property no longer owner, but the people involved with the original property, has there ever been like a direct invitation to bring them in front of a forum such as the wastewater meetings that we have, the public meetings, and being like, maybe listen to what your community is saying about this? Is that too contrary, or?
Yeah, there never has been, and honestly, to some degree,
I don't think it's.
at least personally, I've tried to insulate the landowners that we've talked to because I didn't want to put people in a position where,
Yeah.
I mean, I do want to respect private property rights to a certain degree. I mean, acknowledging that like there are projects, public works projects that involve taking private land. But no, we never did.
Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, I understand the right to privacy around that, I don't know, it's not for bigger pictures.
Yeah. I mean, trust me,
I don't think.
I know, I'm sure you
I mean,
have.
I talked to him just by.
Yeah.
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 I mean, yeah. So that's unfortunately where the current status of that project is as of today. Any other discussion on that one for tonight? Okay. All right, moving on then, 98 Main Street. So as far as the USPS goes, after a month and a half of radio silence, they finally responded to an email trying to schedule a call, acknowledging that I was emailing them and telling me they'd get back to me with a date. That hasn't happened yet. So, I mean, someone is talking to us, but we haven't actually gotten to the point where we're having the meeting yet. So it's, I mean, same story, different day with them. As far as the ATM goes, did have more progress there. So I had a phone conversation with someone with TD Bank on January 17th. What they told us was that outside of all we're talking about, the ATM that is in that building needs to get replaced by the end of 2024 anyway, because it's basically on its last legs. So anybody who uses that ATM has probably noticed that it's never working. So they're planning to replace that ATM anyway before the end of 2024. That's before any of our projects would realistically get off the ground.
Yeah.
But that is going to happen. They were more than open to working with us to construct another unit in that location that would work with a parking lot if we went that direction. And we talked about design and what it would look like and whether it would be a drive-up one or not drive-up one. And so he was going to get back to me with some more design concepts that we can look to think about. But the long and short of it is TD Bank wants to keep that ATM. They're going to replace the one that's in there in the meantime. And then they are open to working with us to secure and maintain an ATM in the location going forward.
Yeah.
Yeah.
One positive.
Yeah. Any questions on that? All right, hearing none.
You're gonna update the door too?
Yeah. I did put a note on it just asking folks to shut it behind them. It's cheaper to do that than replace it.
Yeah.
For sure was open the other day.
Yeah, well, some people can't read.
Yeah.
Some people actually can't.
Yeah. All right, next up is the PSB renovation. So Emily and I had a chance to sit down with town
Where
office.
are you?
G,
I-
6G.
See, I have it as F.
I got town hall committee.
Cause this
I
is,
don't- I
are
don't-
are you specifically talking about the boiler, or are you talking about?
No, this is just a renovation update.
A
We
renovation
got,
update, where is that?
we got ratification of the reserve fund
Yeah,
expenditure
that's what we have.
for the boiler.
Oh, okay. Then we'll pause this conversation and we'll take it up during the warning. I'm sorry. So when I put a warning together, I usually put the warning together and then it becomes chock full of notes about things. And then sometimes items get changed from when it gets posted. So I apologize for me being confusing to what I'm looking at. So pause the PSB conversation and we'll take that up when we talk about the warning because there's questions that are applicable there.
Yeah.
Okay.
Sorry about that. So what's next on your agenda?
So, do you have ratification of reserve fund
Yes.
expenditure for the boiler
Yeah.
installation of the PSB? That's next on our
Okay,
agenda.
perfect.
under
Okay, this is an easy
old
one.
business.
Yes.
So that's all,
Yes, this is an easy one. So basically, back when the boiler was replaced here, we authorized the expense and everything, but in doing that, we did not formally authorize that the expense
Yeah,
come
okay.
out of the capital building reserve fund. And we need to do that in order for Aaron to legally be able to pull the money from the reserve fund and allocate it to there. So the motion that we would be looking for is to essentially
so I make,
yeah,
I make a motion to, the funds, was it 16,000?
$14,621.
Okay, $14,621 to come out of the reserve, building reserve fund for the boiler installation at the public safety building.
Great. So is there a second?
I'll second it.
Great, second from Leanne, thanks. Any further discussion? Okay, hearing none, we'll vote. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye or raising your hand. Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions?
I think I made the motion before, and I look back on it and I'm like, oh, yeah, I should have,
Yeah.
yeah.
And the reason for this is basically that without that motion, those funds have to come out of the general fund, which is gonna impact our unreserved fund number going forward. And we'll talk about that a little bit more in a second. All right, so that, I'm on new business now. Is everybody else
Sure
on
are.
new business? All right,
Sure
great.
are.
We're back on track.
Okay,
All right, new business, FY25 municipal budget adoption.
so I have a question.
Yep.
Would that boiler installation effect was after June 1st, July 1st, so would that affect this budget, not the last budget, not?
I wanna say that we timed it so that we paid for it prior to the end of the fiscal year.
Okay, so that's why it's,
That's a good question though. I'll ask Aaron.
I thought that was done, September. I thought that would affect, 2024 and 25.
Yeah,
Because we're talking about expenses up to July 1st, 2023.
I'm sorry, yeah, so right now we're in FY24.
Yes,
The boiler got replaced in July, right?
I don't think so.
It was in June? Either way, we can go back and make a journal entry to move the funds and take it out of the reserve fund. It's still gonna impact the unreserved fund number that we've got. Because even if it happened after July 1st of this year, it would still be a draw out of the general fund. It would still be a draw out of the reserve fund to the general fund for FY24.
Yeah,
If the expenditure happened in FY23, I believe Aaron can go back and basically make a journal entry that says, no, those funds should have come out of the reserve fund, and the money then goes from the reserve fund back into the general fund, so it would still impact the unreserved fund number that gets rolled forward.
oh, okay.
But I'll ask Aaron, because I don't remember. I know it was sometime around midsummer, and I know there was a discussion around timing of when it happened for a specific reason, but
I know I look back on
my
that.
brain's not working. Okay, I will ask. But that will at least allow us to bill that expense there and then pull the money back to the general fund for that.
Yeah.
So municipal budget adoption, the budget is 95% baked. Coming out of the last budget meeting, Aaron had some ideas about, again, this question of reserve fund allocations to projects that more or less should have come out of the reserve fund, but we never formally moved to do that. And so Aaron is looking to meet with the auditor to just clarify a few things that she'd like to do, which would then allow us to carry forward a larger unreserved fund number into this budget, which would help the budget essentially. So we're just waiting to get back from some answers from the auditor to make sure that what we're looking to do is legit, and then the board can adopt the budget tomorrow. So tomorrow we can review that and talk about the budget. And
So she's trying to make up for like the overage we had in FY '23, which is causing us to, okay, yeah.
yeah, she's basically looking at how to get the unreserved funds number back up by moving expenditures that should have been billed to a reserve account to the reserve account, so it releases those funds back to the general fund.
Oh, okay, then it.
Yeah. So that's what she's working on now. So hopefully tomorrow.
Gonna have that dialed in by tomorrow?
Yep, I asked her and she said by tomorrow night she should have an answer on that, so we should be good to go.
That'll help the tax rate for the new budget, yeah.
Yeah. As it stands now though, and this is the number that was posted in the budget committee meeting notes.
We didn't get a copy of it, the budget.
No, we haven't gotten a copy of it because she's still working on it,
Oh, okay.
but we formally did move to approve a budget number,
Yeah, we did.
which is reflected in the minutes, and the actual budget is slightly less than last year's budget. The actual number. Now, what comes into play there is the unreserved fund number carried forward, and that's what we're trying to figure out now, how to figure that out. So we can talk about this tomorrow night in more detail, but that's why we're not adopting that tonight.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. Okay, so next we're going to move on to talking about the warning. Again, the warning we will approve tomorrow night, but tonight we wanted to discuss a few items that the board can add, and we also wanted to discuss 2 petitions that the board received. So the board received 2 petitions. The first one reads, in accordance with VSA 17 VSA 2642A3, we, the undersigned legal voters of Montgomery, hereby petition the select board to add the following articles to the warning for the town meeting, to the annual town meeting to be held on March 5th, 2024, to wit: shall the town vote to install roadside curbs and raised sidewalks along Vermont Route 118 in Montgomery Center? That's one question. The other question is, shall the town vote to restore and maintain the town office building located on Vermont Route 118 in Montgomery Center? So those are the 2 questions that were on the petition to be added. Liz received the petition and went through and did verify that there's enough legal registered voters to meet the petition requirements. There is a question.
Can you have 2 questions on one petition?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay.
Yep.
Yeah.
So the petitions the signatures are all legal and you got enough of them as required. The issue that comes up is with the questions themselves, because anytime voters offer a question to the town meeting warning through a petition, it's happened in the past. I run it through VLCT's legal Municipal Assistance Center just to make sure that what they're asking is legal, all that good stuff. And the answer I got back from VLCT was, quote, I do not consider either of these articles as stated below to be binding because they aren't within the voter's purview/authority. The select board has sole discretion over road maintenance, and the select board has supervisory authority over anything not specifically assigned to another officer, which we interpret to include managing and overseeing town properties and buildings. Therefore, the select board is not bound to warn them even if a timely petition is with the requisite signatures is submitted. So I guess the decision before the board is, the board could deny this and not put them on the warning, or the board could move to include them in the warning, but advise that they are essentially advisory questions, they are not binding.
So,
Does that make sense to everybody?
Yes.
yeah,
Okay.
so I'll make a motion to put the question.
Well, that's-
on the,
I guess, let's not, tonight, I'd rather just get a consensus on what folks think and not make any motions, because tomorrow we'll move to adopt the warning.
oh,
So I
okay,
feel like tomorrow we can make I don't wanna cloud it by making individual motions about things going into the warning.
okay,
And tonight was more a case of, I wanna discuss this with people, get a consensus. Cause there's a couple other items that we can vote to add to the warning too,
yeah,
and I wanted to kind of put them before
oh, okay.
I wanted to kind of put them before the board tonight to think about, and then tomorrow we can formally vote on them. So tonight's more of a conversation and a consensus around what do you wanna do with this?
My feeling is, I mean, you've got a petition with the legal voters, and they wanted these two questions put on the warning, and I don't see any reason not putting it, why we can't put it on, and it's just an advisory, to get the feeling of how the people feel about it, these two questions. I mean, it's just advisory, and to make sure it just stated that it's advisory, that whatever it just gets the opinion of what, the people think. So that's what I think.
Well, Charlie, that sounds a proper motion. I don't know why you would deny that. That's a proper motion and the board should act on it.
So Merle, I guess I wasn't trying to stop anybody from making a formal motion. My hope was that we could get a consensus from the board on, because there's two other items I want to talk about tonight, and my hope was to get a consensus from the board about whether or not we want to include things. And then what I would do is draft the full warning based on tonight's discussion and bring it back for adoption tomorrow. So there'd be one vote to adopt the full warning as presented, rather than individual motions to add specific articles. I mean, we could do it that way. I just thought that it would be cleaner to adopt. But based on tonight's discussion, I will include or not include things based on the consensus I'm hearing. Anybody else have any, I mean, this is a conversation again, like anybody have any other?
I think that's a fair thing to do.
Yeah,
Okay,
yeah, fair.
Yeah.
okay, sounds like that's the consensus that we're hearing. So I will include these in the draft of the warning for tomorrow.
As advisory.
They will be advisory, yep.
Yeah, non-binding.
And I do,
You're not going to, you're just simply going to put those articles in the warning, correct?
yes, so tomorrow night the board will move to adopt the warning. And tonight's discussion was just, hey guys, should I put these on there tomorrow? Because I want to present a clean warning to everybody for adoption. And so based on tonight's decision and the consensus we're reaching, I will include these on the draft to be adopted tomorrow.
So,
Yep.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
Thank
I
you.
guess the one question I do have, and I agree, like, we can put them on and ask. The one question I do have is, vote to restore and maintain the town office building located at Vermont Route 100.
But 118.
Vermont 118 in Montgomery Center. I'm not entirely clear what that would direct us to restore and maintain the building as. Whether that means restore and maintain the building, restore and maintain the town office building, so like move the town office back there.
No, that doesn't say anything about moving off. That's simply what it says. Just simply restore the building and maintain it.
But as what?
Yeah. Pardon?
But restore it to what and maintain it as what?
Well, obviously it's inhabitable now, Charlie. You'd have to have a professional team come in and remove the molding.
No, but my question is about use, because this says restore the building. So restore the building to me means restore it back to what it was, a town office. And
Restore, if a building is in disrepair, you restore it. If you want to keep it, has nothing to do with the use. restoring a building has nothing to do with the use. It could be used for anything applicable.
Would renovate be a better term?
I don't know. It's not my question. And this is discussion that we can have at town meeting on the question. I'm just saying my question arises out of restore and maintain. Because it's a little vague to me in terms of restore to what and maintain as what.
If a building is just in repair and you want to keep it and use it, what do you do to it? What would you say you do to it?
Repair it?
Yeah,
What'd
repair.
you use it
or-
for, Brian?
But again, yeah. So anyway,
What would you use it for?
What would you use it for?
Yeah.
The post office. For certain, and I think the post office at one time wanted more space. It could be renovated where the post office could have access to the conference room. There could be a couple office spaces on the remaining area, square footage. Maybe even the Conservation Commission would use a small space so they have great exposure on Main Street. I mean, there's several things. Just open your mind, think.
okay. I guess then the other question is how do we pay for it? But that's another question for another day, I guess.
Or you pay for it. How much? How are you going to pay for tearing it down and filling the hole in the parking lot? You know.
Yeah. But yeah. So anyway, those are the questions that I've got regarding it. But we'll add the items. Okay. So in this same vein, continuing on talking about town meeting. So there's two items that I want to make sure the board is okay adding. The first one is simply to create a town hall reserve fund. This is because if the town hall committee is going to be raising funds for the use of that building, unless we have a designated reserve fund, those funds come in to the general fund every year, and then basically their budget is zeroed out. So
there's still gonna be your regular budget for the building, then this will just be a reserve fund separately?
So in this year's
Because that's what
budget,
we talked about.
yeah, so in this year's budget, we would include the town hall in the buildings and grounds municipal budget, because we don't have a reserve fund. So I think the thought here would be that next year, everything having to do with the town hall, we'd essentially be looking at a budget presented from the committee, the reserve fund use, and then the committee could also ask us for money, but it would be a case of like a department allocation.
So sort of structured like the fire department.
Exactly, yeah.
And the library.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yep.
Then they have reserve funds.
Yep.
When they don't get money, then it goes into the reserve fund.
Yeah.
For like a truck.
Yep.
For fire department. So it'd be the same idea. Okay.
Yeah, the key here is that if they don't have a reserve fund and money comes in, technically
It goes in the general
it
fund.
goes in the general fund and disappears into whatever we use it for.
Yeah.
So
this would be earmarked for that building.
So are folks cool if I add that in the draft to be presented tomorrow night? Okay.
Yeah.
The other question that we're wondering about adding, and this has to do with this building here. So Emily and I sat down with town office staff as well as Dan Kahn from the library and had a pretty deep conversation around kind of what is the status of things, what are we moving to, what money is queued to what, and what is the next steps for work. They are starting to move forward. Essentially from a project scope, the next step here is to take the conceptual budget estimates and hire a GC to then work up an actual project budget with real cost tables. But what came out of that discussion was that we need a vault, right? We've been operating without a vault for way too long, and statute tells us that we need to have a vault. The gun safes don't really meet that requirement. And so what the committee that's working on this is proposing is that we put forward an article to borrow up to $250,000 for a term of 5 years to pay for a new vault to be installed on this property in this building. The language would read, shall the town vote to install a prior-proof vault pursuant to 24 VSA 1178 inside the municipal offices of the public safety building and authorize the select board to borrow up to $250,000 for a term of 5 years. The vault that they've gotten a quote from has ranged from anywhere from 170 up to about 250. So the language up to 250 would give them the limit, but it could come in substantially lower than that. They just don't know yet. And I will say also that we're about to pay off the tanker, and the first payment, if this was to go forward, the first payment towards this loan wouldn't be until the FY26 budget. So the tanker would disappear FY26. This would then show up, and it would be for around $60,000. So essentially, from a annual debt service in the budget, it would carry forward roughly the same number.
Wait a minute, so they want us to take out $250,000 loan to put in a vault regardless of renovations? Like, they're just gonna plop it somewhere, or how's
No,
that gonna work?
they know where it would go. The other tie to this question is, how do we pay for the rest of the work? And that's something that I can get you next as we talk about this conversation, is what's being proposed. But what they want to do is get the borrowing authority in place so that they can take the money out to construct the vault. Because if we don't get the borrowing authority in place at town meeting this year, it would have to get kicked all the way to town meeting next year, which means that if ducks get put in a row, you know, spring, summer, and we can start to move on stuff, the first action's gonna be the vault. And so what they're asking is, they want that borrowing authority now, so that as soon as it's possible to get that vault in there, they can do it, rather than wait to the back end of it.
I think the other piece of the timing, at least what I heard, is that we have, and I know you're getting to this, but I think this plays into your question, we have ARPA funds that have to be directed for use.
Yeah.
Otherwise, there is the possibility that those ARPA funds will be recollected.
Yeah, so the
If
town.
feds want them back.
Well, yeah, we don't know what's going to happen, but there's a chance, because we were told. So there was this whole thing about, like, towns had up until, and this deadline already passed. Towns had up until a certain amount of time to make certain decisions. One of those decisions was take the general allocation and basically say, we're taking the ARPA money and we're using it to backfill lost revenue, and it just goes into the general fund, or however the town wants to use it. So that, we thought, unlocked us for any like deadlines. And now, as Emily's saying, the conversation in Washington is, we're going to try to claw back as much of the unspent ARPA money as we possibly can. So there is a potential that if we don't spend that ARPA money relatively quickly, that the feds could do something to come back and get it, which, you know, brings up that Charlton Heston quote about my cold dead hands, right? But we don't want to deal with that. We don't want to be like dealing with having to do that. So we do have to think about the ARPA money. And then to Emily's point, what the committee had floated was that we do have $359,000 in ARPA funds, that if the town office was the project that we wanted to put that towards, rather than trying to take out additional loans or something else in the municipal budget or go to bonding authority, that would be a potential allocation of ARPA funding.
That would make more sense to me than it's earmarking that money for something, and then, you know, we got it locked in.
So my understanding is, once it's like directed, that's what they're calling it, like.
Once we direct it
Once
to a
we
project.
direct it to a project,
can't
they
touch it.
won't.
So this makes
Yeah.
Obligated, I think, is the word that they technically use.
Yeah,
Once it's
okay.
obligated
Yeah,
to
yeah,
a
yeah.
project.
Obligate.
I do have a question though, if the Vermont,
And
if Vermont statute requires us to have this vault, is there no funding in place
I asked that
supports-
question too. And the answer
No
I got was
grants,
no.
no nothing?
Like, there's nothing.
Cause there's funding for municipal office improvements and the vaults are not a part of
Well,
that.
I mean, there is money out
Well, we
there.
missed out on some of that because the flooding took some of that money.
Yes.
Okay.
Some of that money that was there went to where places got flooded.
Yeah, and that's one of the issues
So
that they
that's-
ran
But I asked
into.
the same exact
Yeah.
question. Like, if by statute
Right.
we're required to have this, where is some support in order to have this? And
Yeah.
it doesn't sound
But
like there's any like specified funding out there. Like, you can go and get grants for like municipal projects because it's like part of a municipal project, but you would think.
Yeah.
but my feeling is let's just earmark that money as fast as we can for a project, and then
So
I'd
we
hate to
don't
see
lose
it. I'd
Right.
hate to lose it. I mean,
Yes.
Yeah.
And why go and, borrow more money from the town when that money is there, available to be used for this project? And then the rest of it can be used for help the remodel. And we got a couple other projects in town we were planning on using it for.
So
I think the voters are gonna question us on that, and it's gonna be like, well, why don't we just do that,
And we can use
I mean-
infrastructure replacement money for the power thing if we want. So we have reserve account money that can fund, because we had talked
Yeah.
about using so we could,
Well, I mean, we're looking probably 12,000.
Yeah, I know. We could- just to say, because we had talked about that one as being something we had kind of consensus around using, but
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
Sue, I'm sorry, I see your hand up.
Charlie, you had said earlier that you had two petitions. Were those the two? One was.
I'm sorry, yes, it was one petition with two questions, I'm sorry.
Oh, so it wasn't two, okay.
I apologize, my bad phrasing on my part, but it was one petition that had two questions.
That's fine.
Yeah, sorry about that. Thank you for the clarification.
As obligating fund, as far as obligating funds, Charlie, you could put down Larry needs a new truck.
We'll add that to the hopper.
It needs some loads of gravel on his road.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I forgot to mention one thing, Charlie, if I may. At town
Yeah,
meeting,
go ahead.
the moderator used to get the microphones, but can you get somehow two microphones on the floor? I know what I did we went to the school and got volunteers, and a lot of the kids, they were happy to come to town. It exposes them to town meeting, and they take turns and maybe half an hour or so.
Yep.
They would handle the microphones, have two on the floor, that way carried around to people so everybody could hear. Just a thought.
Yes. I think we're definitely going to try to have at least one, if not two microphones for the audience, Merle, so that folks can hear.
You need two,
Yep.
really. Yeah.
Yep.
Okay, thank you.
So, we're after talking about this last week and thinking about it and thinking about sequencing of stuff.
I thought of that.
What my recommendation would be is that if the board wants to kind of start down this road, we could put an article on the warning about the vault, about the borrowing for the vault, explain to the voters about why we're talking about that. In that conversation, we can talk about the ARPA money and what the board is leaning towards using it for, and kind of use that conversation as a sounding board for the project. And coming out of that, if the voters approve that article, and based on the conversation, then the board could follow up by formally obligating the ARPA money towards that project. So that's a long way of saying, like, I don't think we need to formally vote on appropriating the ARPA money tonight, but in the context of putting this article on the warning, it's all kind of wrapped together.
Yeah.
And so that, I think, would be kind of the sequence of events as I would see it if we wanted to do that.
We can explain the other option, yeah.
Does that sound?
yeah,
Is that
that
good?
all makes sense. I guess
Is that gonna be soon enough to obligate that money?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I don't see the feds doing anything to claw the money back in the next. I mean, they're too busy trying to keep the government open and pass a budget.
It's a political year, so they don't wanna.
Yeah. So
do too much.
I don't see an issue between that and March 1st. or March 2nd, or whatever the date of town meeting is.
Yeah,
If for some reason we get like a warning shot from somebody that says, oh my God, they're gonna do this, like we could always move to do it.
don't plan your vacation for town meeting day like you did last year.
Don't worry, I'm coming back 4 days before town meeting this year,
Okay,
assuming I can make it back.
okay.
So just for a second, I understand the vault situation and the ARPA money, and that's all fine and everything, and it's sort of just in the same conversation. I'm a little frustrated. I did specifically ask that this board be privy to conversation, some sort of presentation or conversation about this, so to hear that the two of you went and had this conversation with the two different groups without including the rest of us, I feel a little like I have been privy with my relationship to the library to some sides of this, and I've been very quiet and trying not to like engage this, but I have some opinions that I would like to bring to the table.
Okay, I apologize. I thought we talked about this at the last meeting and talked about how if we had the full board to go do it, we'd have to warn it as a formal select board meeting, and so that's why we were just talking about having 2 people go.
But I don't know if I wasn't there for that, but I don't remember that
Okay.
conversation, because
I apologize. Because the alternative is to bring them all in and have the conversation
would-
tonight, or not tonight, but at a warned, okay, and we can certainly look to do that. And
Yeah,
perhaps coming up into town meeting, we should, because if this is gonna be a topic, we should, yeah. Okay.
I
Yeah.
mean, I just,
Yep.
I def-
sorry to be like,
No,
but
that makes total
I really have some
sense.
strong feelings about the
No,
things I've heard.
I definitely
and-
think we all should be on the same page with that before town meeting.
Yeah,
If we get questioned at town meeting, then we
Yep.
all can be on the same page.
yeah.
Okay. Then we'll try to schedule a conversation at a regular meeting to talk about this. But that was the main decision point
Yeah.
that came out of the meeting was
Well, we're looking at the warning. Right?
that we needed to make those decisions now to move the warning forward. Okay, so it sounds like there's consensus that we're gonna add those articles to the warning, so we'll do that and bring that back tomorrow night for review. Okay, so that brings us to NRPC contract for planning services. So this is a contract that we received from regional planning, and it's a normal, like it's a standard contract for services with them. This is subject to the revisions of the zoning bylaws. And it's all fine. It's like the exact same thing we've done in the past. The one,
So this is for them helping us revise the
Yep.
zoning bylaw.
yep, same as like the grant that helped them do the town plan. We used this exact same grant last time we did this. The only thing that is troubling with this, and it might be a typo, I don't know. We were trying to do some emailing before the meeting to figure out what was going on, but the way the budget reads is that the total project is going to cost $16,848, and the grant amount is only going to be $1,872, whereas the total to the town, the total cost of the project is $18,720.
Yeah.
This lists the grant as $1,872 with a match of $16,850. I did have a chance to email the chair of the planning commission real quick before the meeting to say, like, does this look okay? And he wrote back and said, no, that looks like it should be the inverse of it.
That's what
Okay.
So,
Yeah.
So-
I think we need to table this.
yeah,
until we
so
get
to
After we get
to my
clarification.
point, we're gonna table this item
Yeah.
and not,
Yeah.
but that's why it was on there, and that's the
Sounds to me
reason
like it
why
should be
we're
the
gonna
other way
table it, yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, that brings us to liquor and tobacco licenses, unless there's other stuff that I'm forgetting on the real warning, no, okay. So we have 2 licenses today. We have a 3rd-class hotel license for Darrell Lynn Inc. This is the Phineas. And then we have a 2nd-class liquor and tobacco license for Jolly Associates. We can handle them as a slate if you want.
So I'll make a motion to approve the 3rd-class hotel license for Darrell Lynn Incorporated and the 2nd-class liquor and tobacco license for Jolly Associates.
Great, is there a second?
One second.
We have a second from Suzanne. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, we'll vote. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye or raising your hand.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? All right, motion carries. That leaves us with 3 fleet permits. We'll let Mark review them real quickly. Real quick, not real quickly. I think is the right.
Really quickly?
Really quickly. Just take that to me.
So I'll make the motion to approve the fleet permits for Newport Sand and Gravel, Barrett's Trucking, and Born Energy.
Great, is there a second?
I'll second it.
Great. If there's no further discussion, we'll vote. All those in favor, please signify by raising your hand or saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Great, motion carries. And that brings us through the end of our agenda. I will say, just as a reminder, February 5th is the select board hearing on the town plan. So that's when the town plan hearing will be at a regular meeting, February 5th.
So our first meeting in February.
Yep.
And that's the one that, the final copy that they emailed us that couple weeks ago.
Yes, that will be the last chance for any revisions before adoption.
And we have a meeting tomorrow night at 5.
Yeah, and tomorrow night at 5 is the budget and warning meeting. And again, that is one that folks are welcome to Zoom into or come here and participate in person. Probably actually do it in Aaron's office, but you're welcome to be here in person or you can do it via Zoom. So with that, a motion to adjourn is always in order.
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Motion from Leanne, is there a second?
Second.
Second from Suzanne, any discussion? Hearing none, we'll vote. All those in favor of adjournment, please signify by saying aye or raising your hand.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Great, motion carries and the meeting stands adjourned. Thanks so much. Bye, Larry.
And Larry,
Bye, Larry.
Larry will be able to fix the.
Good night, everybody.